Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Sport This Week video. And in today's video, I've got tennis, basketball, ice hockey, rugby, football, uh, baseball, cricket, boxing, UFC, NFL, ice hockey, said that, Moto GP, Formula 1, and yeah, I believe that's all the sports news this week. If you are new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, starting off with the tennis news this week, it was the Acura Classic continuation, so the continuation of the Acura Classic, where Swiatek won 2-1 versus Vekic to win the women's singles Acura Classic. That was the final. And it was also the Guadalajara Open, where Sakari won 2-0 versus Kostyuk. Badoza lost via retirement versus Azarenka. Swiatek won 2-1 versus Collins. Sakari won 2-1 versus Kudermetova. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Buzkova. And it was also the Stockholm Open, where Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus Cressy. Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus Ymer. Tsitsipas won 2-0 versus Ruusuvuori. Tsitsipas lost 2-0 versus Rune to win the men's singles Stockholm Open. And yeah, that was all the tennis news. Moving on to the baseball news now, where Yankees won 4-2 versus Guardians. Yankees won 5-1 versus Guardians. Astros won 4-2 versus Yankees. Astros won 3-2 versus Yankees. And Astros won 5-0 versus Yankees. And yeah, that is all your baseball news. Not loads this week. But yeah, moving on to the basketball news now. Celtics won 126 to 117 versus 76ers. Warriors won 123 to 109 versus Lakers. Heat lost 116 to 108 versus Bulls. Lakers lost 103 to 97 versus Clippers. Celtics won 111 to 104 versus Heat. Warriors lost 128 to 123 versus Nuggets. Celtics won 126 to 120 versus Magic. Heat won 112 to 109 versus Raptors. And Lakers lost 106 to 104 versus Blazers. And yeah, that is all the basketball news. Moving on to the ice hockey news now. Maple Leafs lost 4-2 versus Coyotes. Bruins won 5-3 versus Panthers. Canadiens won 3-2 versus Penguins. Red Wings lost 5-4 versus Kings. Bruins lost 7-5 versus Senators. Bruins won 2-1 versus Ducks. Canadiens won 6-2 versus Coyotes. Maple Leafs won 3-2 versus Stars. Red Wings lost 4-2 versus Blackhawks. Bruins won 4-3 versus Wild. Maple Leafs lost 4-1 versus Jets. Canadiens lost 5-2 versus Stars. Stahl signed a one-year deal with Panthers, and Red Wings won 5-1 versus Ducks. And yeah, that is all the ice hockey news. Moving on to the rugby news now. England won 42 to 18 versus France, and Wasps have been placed into administration, which is a real shame for them as they are a big rugby team. But yeah, that is all the rugby news. Moving on to the football news now. Putellas won the Ballon d'Or. Benzema won the Ballon d'Or, so congratulations to both of them. Xavi won the Copper Trophy, and him as well. Sinclair has joined Bristol Rovers. Palace won 2-1 versus Wolves. Brighton drew 0-0 versus Forest. Southampton won 1-0 versus Bournemouth. Brentford drew 0-0 versus Chelsea. Liverpool won 1-0 versus West Ham. Newcastle won 1-0 versus Everton. Man U won 2-0 versus Spurs. Gerrard has been sacked. Fulham won 3-0 versus Villa. Arsenal won 1-0 versus PSV. Barcelona won 3-0 versus Villarreal. Leicester won 2-0 versus Leeds. Ribery has retired. Xavi won Golden Boy. Dortmund won 5-0 versus Stuttgart. Bayern won 2-0 versus Hoffenheim. Forest won 1-0 versus Liverpool. Man City won 3-1 versus Brighton. Everton won 3-0 versus Palace. Augsburg drew 3-3 versus Leipzig. Chelsea drew 1-1 versus Man U. Inter won 4-3 versus Fiorentina. Real Madrid won 3-1 versus Sevilla. Lens won 1-0 versus Marseille. Southampton drew 1-1 versus Arsenal. Atletico Madrid won 2-1 versus Betis. Man U won 1-0 versus Leicester. West Ham won 3-2 versus Reading. Arsenal won 2-0 versus Liverpool. Fulham won 3-2 versus Leeds. Villa won 4-0 versus Brentford. Leicester won 4-0 versus Wolves. Chelsea won 2-0 versus Brighton. Newcastle won 2-1 versus Spurs. Liverpool won 2-0 versus Atalanta. Lille won 4-3 versus Monaco. Napoli won 1-0 versus Roma. And Barcelona won 4-0 versus Bilbao. And that is all the football news. Moving on to the cricket news now. Zimbabwe won by 31 runs versus Ireland. Scotland won by 42 runs versus West Indies. Netherlands won by 5 wickets versus Namibia. Sri Lanka won by 79 runs versus UAE. Ireland won by 6 wickets versus Scotland. West Indies won by 31 runs versus Zimbabwe. UAE won by 7 runs versus Namibia. Ireland won by 9 wickets versus West Indies. England won by 5 wickets versus Afghanistan. And Sri Lanka won by 9 wickets versus Ireland. And yeah, that is all the cricket news. Moving on to the boxing news now. Williamson will fight Kelly on the 2nd of December. Parker will fight Ryder on the 26th of November. Azim versus Charlton. Lawal versus Yuma. Richards versus Chelly. Gile versus Robinson. Azim and Ryan will fight on the 27th of November. Ferreira will fight Cardoza on the 12th of November. Fury versus Chisora and Dubois versus Lorena will fight on the 3rd of December. White versus Franklin. Wardley versus Gorman. Rodriguez versus Ryan. And Richard versus Bolotniks will fight on the, I believe, the 27th of November. I might be wrong with that one, but I believe that's right. Dean the Great will fight Walid Sharks on the 19th of November. Agbeko won by unanimous decision versus Steam. McRory won by TKO in round 6 versus Bunn to become IBO World Light Heavyweight Champion. Lara won by a KO in round 3 versus Sam Martin. Schofield won by KO in round 1 versus Rosas. Sims won by unanimous decision versus Morrison to become a WBC US Heavyweight Champion. And that is all the boxing news. Moving on to the UFC news now. Whittaker will fight Costa on the 12th of February. Till will fight Duplessis on the 10th of December. Lawler versus Ponzinibbio. Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. Gustafsson versus St. Preux. Shabazian versus Luni Giambula. Rosenstreet versus Dorkhouse. And Curtis versus Buckley will fight on the 10th of December. Rosa won by a decision versus Landsberg. Makayev won by a submission in round 3 versus Gordon. Petrosian won by decision versus Dobson. Nurmagomedov won by decision versus Umar Gedziev. Krylov won by decision versus Uzdemir. Borayo won by decision versus Muradov. Muhammad won by KO in round 2 versus Brady, which I did think I said Muhammad would win. I can't remember what, but I think I said Muhammad would win. Fiora won by decision versus Chugagian, which I didn't predict right. Dariush won by decision versus Gamrot, which I also didn't predict right. O'Malley won by decision versus Yarn, which I did say O'Malley would win. I can't remember how. I think I might have said knockout, but I mean, I at least predicted that bit right. That was a great fight, by the way. Sterling won by KO in round 2 versus Dillashaw to remain bantamweight champion, which I did predict right. I can't remember what round or what I said, but I did predict Sterling from what I can remember. And Makhachev won by submission in round 2 versus Oliveira. I didn't predict that one right. I kind of underestimated Makhachev, but he really did impress me. I constantly went against Oliveira, so I thought it's about time that I go for him. And I did fully back him in this fight. But looking at Makhachev, he does seem like he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, the way that he dominated that fight against Oliveira. And it seems like he's going to be fighting for the pound-for-pound title against Volkanovski next, which is a very big fight that I'm very much looking forward to. But yeah, moving on to the Moto GP news now, whereas the Malaysia Grand Prix, Martin was on pole, Bastianini started second, and Marquez started third. In the end, Bagnaia won, Bastianini came second, and Quartararo came third. Moving on to the F1 news now, whereas the USA Grand Prix, Sainz was on pole, Leclerc started second, and Verstappen started third. In the end, Verstappen won, Hamilton came second, and Leclerc came third, with Stroll, Bottas, and Sainz not finishing, meaning Red Bull are the Constructors' Champions. They are the most dominant team in F1, and I mean that's fair. If you got Verstappen doing what he's doing on your team, then there's no way you're not going to be able to have that kind of thing. And Perez as well, very good race, got some very good results this season as well. But of course, Verstappen is the main guy for that team for the moment. But yeah, congratulations to Red Bull, big win for them. And moving on to the final sport now is with the NFL news. So Packers lost 23-21 versus Commanders. Buccaneers lost 21-3 versus Panthers. Cardinals are trading for Anderson. Vance suffered a broken finger. Ravens signed Jackson. 49ers trading for McCaffrey. Wilson missed week 7. And Chiefs won 44-23 versus 49ers. And yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.